Tales from the shit. All that she wants is another fucking baby? Oh, hey, tripod. Oh, that's right. Smoking does give you like a 50% increased chance of death. Nah, I'm not worried. I think it's metal as fuck. Tonight I'll be performing what I think is my scariest stuff ever. Scariest for me, because I have to say the N-word. This is a little ditty I call Sanctimonious Blues. It was a sticky summer night on the Delta. The half moon shone brightly and a steady breeze brought the subtle hint of rain. The crossroads were dirt scattered with gravel and rutted from heavy rains. It had been one of those slow years, long and wet, with near constant downpours. Downpours that made one wonder if the Lord had forgotten his promise. A weary young man carried a bruised guitar and trudged along the road. His mud-caked shoes were travel-worn and his shoulders sagged with the weight of an evening's pint of rye. Though Jim Crow had roosted in his home state long ago, the young man is not afraid. Even in the dark, he exudes a performer's charisma. The nighttime was his time. He enjoyed the sense of freedom, something he'd never known during the day. In his pants pocket, his right hand clutched a nickel and 2 pennies to avoid a jingle. Just because he felt safe didn't mean he wanted to be noticed. His subconscious protected him. It recognized stealth as safety, especially as a close-to-drunk bluesman early in the AM in Mississippi. When the sun dropped, a black man didn't have to look hard to find ghosts. But as he walked along, someone did notice him, and that someone was the devil. Being the devil, he was dressed to kill, the timeless rhinestone Marlboro Man, an incendiary hunk of neon rebellion in permanent possession of limitless vague appeal. He watched in mute bemusement, hoofed leg resting on a large rock, as the young man walked by. Then he stamped his hoof with impatience. When he deigned to speak, the devil's voice was smooth, tantalizing, and delicious. The words poured from his mouth, a roaring Niagara wrapped in seduction's perfume. He said, "Looking for me?" The young man was startled, then realized he knew that voice. He crunched to a stop, turned, and for some reason, the devil looked exactly as he expected. He stammered, "Who are you?" The devil allowed the mortal a tick or two to savor his visage. He said, "Oh, I think you know who I am. If you're wondering, the devil sounds like Prince with a 2-pack-a-day habit." That's what I sound like. Just wish I looked like that. The young man was anxious, understandably so. He asked, The devil? The devil stretched his velvet-gloved hand, then said, "That's right. Come closer." The young man found himself dragged roughly across the road, his tattered shoes leaving fresh plow marks. At around the 20-foot mark, he screamed, "Oh, Jesus!" As the young man skid to a dusty halt, the devil simply pointed to himself. He sighed, then said glumly, "No, devil. Sorry for the parlor tricks, but no one entirely believes I'm me until I prove it." The young man took a quick nip of his bottle and sat down on the far side of the rock. Despite the rut marks he'd created digging in his heels, he was ready to move forward. He had his soulless future to look forward to, which was better than no future at all. Expectantly, he said, "Now that I know it's you, I'd like to get down to business, Mr. Devil." Since the rules dictated human interaction be his only source of spontaneity, the devil looked amused. I can only say looked because you can never be certain about the devil. He rubbed one of his horns absent-mindedly, then placidly questioned, "You yelped like that, and now you're not afraid?" With the blind reassurance of the ignorant, the young man said, "Just reacting to being drug across the road is all. My mom is good on her church learning. Said devil don't hurt nobody during contract writing." The devil smiled wryly, for he knew that type, inside and out. He said, Your mother is absolutely right. Usually are, or so I'm told. If harm came to you during our transaction and word got round, that would be bad for business. The young man shook his head and wiped the sweat from his brow. He said, "Yes, sir, that's what she said too. Said it would be bad for business." "In pursuit of the prize," the devil replied. "Well, since you're so eager, let's get to it. What do you want?" The young man nervously cleared his throat. "Well, devil, sir, I was wanting to be the best on this here guitar." The devil looked at him in disbelief. "That's it? All you want for your immortal soul is to be able to play that instrument?" The young man returned his look, not understanding, then said, "Yes, sir, but not to just be good now, but to be the best. What man could want more than that?" The devil pretended to think it over, then said, "Most. Well, all. Basically all. You're selling yourself short, boy. A man of your talents could command considerably more." The devil sat beside him, then commanded, "Let me get a swig of that rye." The young man cast a glance over at the devil, then to his own ragged clothing. He looked at his mostly empty bottle of rye, which he then passed over, with reluctance. Then, slightly slurry and overly comfortable, he said, "Talents? I only got 2 talents, Mr. Devil. Drinking and fucking." They both laughed together. It was totally weird. When the guffaws had ceased, the devil drained the last of the bottle, sighed, then said, "I meant neither, and I find you middling in both regards. But to the business. A man's soul is a special gift, not something to give away. What if, in fairness, I offered all you asked plus more? We've shared a drink. I couldn't possibly take advantage of a friend." The young man thought it over. Though reassured by notions of fairness, he assumed he was in over his head. But, since he was under the influence, he lit a cigarette and said, "I suppose I'd listen to your offer. You smoke?" The devil grinned and told him, "Only when appropriate."
"Damn, son."
"And I knew you'd say that, so how about I teach you to play guitar and a once forbidden art? The most powerful weapon known to man. For a few more years, at least." The young man exhaled a cloud of smoke that slowly rolled away, then said, "What? A weapon? I just want to play this guitar, be the best there ever was. I don't want to be doing no killing." The devil then rapidly explained things, a specialty of his. He said, No. It's not a weapon like that. It's one against the way things are, for people such as yourself. What if I said your guitar could lift your people up, to one day set them free, instead of whatever it is they currently are?" The young man was willing to trade his soul to be the best at guitar, sure, but sometimes the shininess of the bait scares away the fish. Being afraid of too sweet a deal, the wobbly young man looked the devil square in the eyes, square as his state would allow, then said, "Well, devil, if you told me that, I guess I'd be wondering why the devil would want to be helping out inwards." Soft A. The devil laughed from genuine surprise, the sound as terrifying as one would expect. When he finished, he said, "That's true. I have no interest in directly helping you, boy, since broken men are useful for my endeavors. But, as your people rise, one day they'll eventually bump against the ceiling. I've always been a fan of friction, as it usually leads to fires." The young man tried his hardest to be interested and failed. He said, "Huh? Devil, sir, I just want to play guitar, maybe make some records." The devil said, "That's the beauty of it. That's all you'll have to do, boy. When you do it, if you shout into the corner and shout it well, you will inspire the greatest weapon against oppression ever imagined." The young man had only dared to dream of women and money. He had no understanding of the devil's angle. Overwhelmed, he forced, "What you mean?" As if addressing an invisible audience, the devil said, "I mean, sooner than you'd think, you'll have their children wanting to dress like you." The young man failed to see how the dots were connected, so he shook his head and asked, "Who cares what white kids dress like?" Coldly, the devil said, "You're still not getting it, boy." Maybe it was the booze. Probably was. But before he knew it, the young man looked across to the devil and blurted, "Damn, devil, why you keep calling me boy?" The devil looked down to him and said, "I don't know, boy. Why do you keep calling me devil?" The young man had never considered that, so he said, "Guess I never thought about that. What's your name?" The devil smiled and said, "I'll be damned if I let that slip." Let's get back to business. The deal. Your soul for guitar lessons? The young man listened closely, then corrected him. Not just lessons, to be the best. From behind his rounded sunglasses, the devil said, Yes, yes, to be the best. The young bluesman's survival instincts kicked in and filled him with new momentum, an urge to get and get. But he resisted and said, Then I agree. The devil sighed with relief. Okay then, let's get to it. He reached in his pocket and produced a flask. He motioned. Go ahead, take a swig. Bottle said it's from Tennessee, but tastes like home to me. The young man took the bottle. It burned on the way down and tasted heavily of charcoal, and he said, That's good. The devil stood up from their stone seat, wobbled, and said, Some of the best. I've enjoyed it over the last several hours. Now, look here. Then, behold, with a poof of smoke like from a birthday party magician, the devil was holding a very sparkly orange, very battered, very Chinese knockoff Les Paul. He brandished it, then proclaimed, Look ye upon this directly, upon Satan's axe. Being a musician, the young man found himself very interested in the newly materialized instrument. He studied it and said, That's no axe, that's a guitar, with a wire hanging out the bottom. The devil grinned widely. Very perceptive of you. Here, hold my bourbon and watch this. The young man did as directed and watched, amazed, as the devil poofed over to a tall pine tree. The devil then raised his axe over his head, filleted. I choked on the tip. Filleted the dangling wire till it glowed red hot, then jabbed it, smoldering, into the tree. Now then, the devil said loudly, his voice resounding, all we need is a little power. Blinded by the flash and near deafened by the boom, the young man gasped as the pine was struck by lightning. As the crack of thunder faded, a dull electric hum filled the air. Sensing the opening, the devil moved his hands across the guitar in ways the young man had never seen. As it produced sounds he had never dreamed possible, the bluesman exclaimed, Holy shit! Where'd you learn to play like that? As he continued to play pretentiously, the devil answered, I'm much better at the fiddle. Now listen. Feel the beat, how it makes your heart leap. With this you'll control crowds, make them beg for that next note, make them want it. You will keep them in suspense. The young man simply blinked and said, Huh? The devil replied, It's what sells, boy. The devil's own goddamn time signature. And it's high time it made a resurgence. I'll teach it to you, but you'll have to attach your own flavor. Now that music was finally being discussed, the young man listened intently. He questioned, How do I do that? The devil walked close to him, glittery orange axe still in hand. He said, That's the easy part. Just sing what you know, and you'll burn bright indeed. The young man got a worried look on his face. He said, Devil, I don't know shit. Curtly, the devil said, You know plenty. Sing about what you have in abundance, the pain of being a man. Now, hand me your instrument. The devil took the battered guitar and held it to the moonlight. He gave it a quick strum, twisted one tuner an eighth turn, then gave the strings a thrash Spanish style, then said, There, ready to go. The young man looked to him in disbelief. That's it? The devil answered, Normally I'd prick your finger, but that seemed counterproductive. Take this. Try and hit a few licks. The young man did as instructed, and to his amazement he was able to emulate what the devil had been doing. With a fresh smile dominating his face, he exclaimed, I can't believe it. The devil took another swig of his bourbon and said, Belief has nothing to do with it, boy. A deal's a deal. The young man paid no attention, the notes exploding from his fingertips with pinpoint precision. Excitedly, he said, Hot damn, I've never played like this before in my life. The devil's boredom shone through again as he said, I suppose you're ready then. What will you do now? The young man stood up, took the offered bottle, and said, Now I gotta get on the road. I got a life ahead of me playing the blues. The devil felt the need to correct him, so he said, Yes, but not a long life. The young man's eyes went wide with fear, and he asked, "What you mean? You traded my soul to play guitar. You didn't say nothing about no taking me early." Though he'd always appreciated this part in the past, lately the devil had found it hard to find satisfaction in his work. But knowing he had a job to do, he tried his hardest and said, "Oh, ha, that's funny. I'm laughing now. I'm actually laughing." The young man took a drink, handed the bottle back, then angrily commanded, "What's so funny, devil?" After taking a quick nip himself, the devil stood up and said, "You thought your soul was worth guitar lessons, a completely new musical style, and a long life? That's not how this works. I did, however, throw in that complimentary tuning." A man smart enough to know not to lie to the devil knew better than to fight with him, so the young man questioned him a little gentler this time. "What? You mean to tell me my soul is worth less 'cause I'm black?" The devil said, "Of course it is. It's the law in hell, you see. But unfortunately for you, it's not the law that I disclose it." The young man went back to being very loud, his switch officially flipped, his 100-proof bravery putting him on the verge of shouting, "What? What you mean the law?" The devil simply shrugged and took a much longer drink. He took his time and, when he'd finished, said, "Yes, the law. You remember all those Confederate senators that thought it was moral to own people? Well, they went down to the allegedly bottomless pit with me. And it's not, bottomless. I fell for a few hundred millennia, sure, maybe 1,000, maybe, but fall far enough and you'll always bottom out. Sometimes with a bang." The young man once again couldn't follow, and he said, "Devil, sometimes I think you just talking to hear yourself." The devil simply nodded back as he sat back on the rock, then said, "Sometimes I think that too, usually out loud. What were we talking about?" The young man shook his head slowly before he answered, "I don't know, something about politicians." The devil excitedly said, "Oh yes, the senators. We got to talking one night during a classic group session, and I'm ashamed to say this, but they won me over. From my point of view, it just makes sense your soul is worth 3/5. I'm sure you understand. Drink?" The young man lit another cigarette and took the offered flask. Unsure what else to say, he went with, "Thanks." He put it to his lips, having plenty of reasons to want a stiff drink. The devil leaned towards him and continued to explain. "Just as the old guy in the sky abides by man's rules, I thought I'd try doing the same, especially when they're horrible. Humans devise way nastier punishments and rules than I ever could. Bureaucracy, for instance. Self-inflicted torture. Lines, forms. I couldn't come up with that. Not in a million years." The young man shook his head. "Damn, Lucifer. You a real son of a bitch." The devil looked to him smugly and said, "Pleased to meet you. I—" Before he could finish the sentence, there was a bolt of lightning and a crash of thunder. The young man looked to him expectantly, then asked, "What you say?" The devil sighed again, then said, "Someone decided I was getting ahead of myself, so never you mind. I'll gift that line to some other troublemaker. But look at the time. I must be off." The young man was instantly panicked. He felt anger, rage. Most of all, he felt fear. He said, "What? What you mean? I ain't done. This ain't right. Where you gotta be?" Flatly, the devil told him, "Anywhere but here. Good luck, son. When it's time I collect, you'll know. Your time's wasting, boy. Squander your talents on women and whiskey." The young man looked to the devil with hatred burning in his eyes, the red-hot hatred of cold truth laid bare. The devil simply smiled back to him, tipped his hat, and said, "You wanted me here, you got what you wanted, and now you hate me. All is as God intended." With that, the devil hopped neatly into the air, clicked his hooves, and with a puff of smoke was no more. The young man looked around, shook his head, and sighed. Then he drained the last of the bourbon, tossed the flask into the tree line, and began to walk forward. He was on his way. The end.